All right, welcome back to Finding Truth, podcast on Unscripted Truth TV. Logan with Austin once again. Last episode of July. Say goodbye. Fine July. Uh, it's been honestly a little bit of a quiet month, I guess headline wise, but it went out with a bang. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Honestly, the first half of the month, I guess, was kind of quiet. The first two episodes were quiet, and the last two episodes have actually been quite loud. Um, I guess maybe not, maybe I'm just tripping because the 4th of July was kind of loud too. Maybe this whole month has been more. Maybe it's just my American mind where it's just things just settle in. It's all just normal at this point. A plane could crash in my front yard and I wouldn't blink. Um, but if you get, in case you guys haven't been living under a rock, they've made it quite clear to everybody about the couple of big headline deaths. And there's been more, but the main headline ones being Hulk Hogan right after Ozzy Osbourne. And, there's several connections. I don't know if we're going to get into the fine details of those connections, but I do have a couple of things to say about them. And I will preface all this, since it's at the beginning of the episode, might as well shout them out now. Well, people might still be watching. But Gematria Effect News, Zach's channel, he has been destroying these topics in a good way. So a lot of what I would have to say about it in that plane would be a lot of parroting what he already says, and he says it a lot better than I can. So check him out. He's been really killing these topics, and they're still ongoing. So don't think that these things aren't painting a pattern towards something else, from something else. So he draws those connections really well, and you give his channel a check out if you haven't already. But yeah, so yeah, I think we'll quickly pop in on the discussion with Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan because they're cultural icons. Then we speaking of, we also have the race to talk about. We have our boy Bubba 1-1. We've alluded to him potentially winning this season. We did not necessarily see this coming, but we saw a win for him this season happening. There's been several things to harken back to, whether or not it's the Michael Jordan connections to with him racing for 23XI, folded in with that whole lawsuit that we've been covering ongoing pretty much every week. I've kind of tried to throw that in and remind people that this will amount to something. There's something that they're brewing in the background. So no surprise that he finally ekes out a win, and I wouldn't be surprised when Reddit gets one either, because they've been back in the headlines as the teammates of 23XI this last week. So we'll talk about the race, and we'll look ahead to Iowa, the next race. And then we're going to slide right back into our relationship series. And I think, we'll have a couple more things to sprinkle in, things we missed about some of the things we wanted to talk about the last couple episodes that I don't think we ever got around to it that deserve some attention. But you'll see when that happens. But then after that, the main bulk of our episode will be on back to our relationship series, and we're gonna talk about childhood trauma, and I guess you could say trauma in general, but I think we're going to be focusing on the importance of that child mind. At least I assume that's the angle we're going to be taking on. That's what I've kind of mulled over in thought for this episode is just how malleable they are, and how things that happened in your childhood really leave a lasting imprint that changes your life for the better or for the worse. And what I like to say, and try to remind myself, is that you only get one chance as a parent. There's time does not stop and go backwards for you. You can only get one chance to do things right when it comes to rearing a child. So I try to keep that in mind, but it's clear that not every parent thinks that way. And because of that, there's external issues that happen with children, but also internal issues. And I think we'll be covering a lot of that. But without the continuing this long-winded rant to start, let's send it down to everybody's favorite, Austin. How's it going, buddy?
I'd say it's going. Yeah, what a week. What a month. I mean, just yeah, we started. It was we ended June, and then we got into July, and we had like what I said, there'd be a massive event by either by July 4th or before. We had the flood. We had a lot of flooding this month. Flooding all over the country, almost everywhere. Every state's been affected. Um, we've had Mount Rainier quaking. There's been earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes. I mean, there's been just everything this month. A lot of weather warfare, a lot of wild stuff, and yeah, this week was a real wild one. Just wild. With the big three deaths, especially all their ages coming out to 201, adding all together. But um, yeah, just a lot going on. I think they're definitely, as we alluded to, I know last episode of the episode before, talking about just what it's alluding to in coming August, just being the month that we expect August to be, just probably going to be the month that really um, kicks off something huge. They've really stepped it up in July, and June was big too. And there's a lot going on. There was the protests, the riots, and all that, and um, yeah, it's crazy right now the way things are just keep shifting and the things that keep happening. It was a really busy news week. There's a lot to keep up with. Yeah, just we were talking last week too um, about the 201s in Dover and stuff, and then it just spewed over and it's bled into this week. Uh, I know it was Zach's birthday too, so happy late birthday to Zach as well. And um, yeah, we're talking about how last week with the 201s and that crazy race and everything, and then we get a wild race again today at the Brickyard with some of the same stuff, and you get the big Bubba's big win for the year. Maybe he might get another one, who knows? But yeah, just everything that went into it. I mean, you had a lot of the same elements as last week, which I thought was weird. Last week you had Bell spinning twice from the lead. And then you had this week you had both Penske cars, Austin Cindric leading and then get the flat tire, and then Joey Logano's leading and gets a flat tire, both from the lead. So I thought that was kind of copying from last week, with some strange elements. And then last week with 10, 15 laps to go, you get the rain coming in where they throw the caution and stuff, and then today you get 5 laps to go, and the same thing, you get that caution coming in there again. Um, for rain, which is just so weird at the and it only rained like one spot in the track. They quickly dried it, and then they were uh, back to it. I just thought it was really weird how that happened 2 weeks in a row, especially with, like I said, the spins and the accidents and the flat tires. Yeah, and just the way this race kind of played out too. Because we did say a few weeks back that we were talking Bubba would get a win. He'd get his win. There were some tracks that looked good for him. I know he qualified second for this one, and it was kind of a race where uh, there was other people that were around that looked like they had some strong cars. I know Toyota had like the top 5 qualifying spots. Bubba qualified second. So, yeah, the way this one, I mean, last week it really looked like it was Christopher Bell's race. This one, we really didn't have a real true identity. Even yesterday, I was kind of thinking, maybe it's going to be a repeat for Denny Hamlin, or maybe another Briscoe win or something. But yeah, Bubba in the end pulls it off, and he had the thought what was kind of interesting was more just his sponsor kind of having some interesting numbers that kind of I thought fit with the week. With the Chumba Casino and stuff, kind of interesting, and even Chumba and Casino by themselves have some interesting gematria, but kind of felt like that was maybe um, just the way his car looked, his paint scheme. It kind of seemed like he'd be someone to win the race. Just sometimes they got the paint scheme and look at the cars, you can kind of tell, but it seemed like maybe the best from what we can see so far from the ritual, seems like maybe the Chumba Casino has something to kind of do with it. I thought it was interesting, and the week was there wasn't, like I said, a whole lot alluding to a Bubba win, but sure enough, he held him off in the end and ended up getting the big win.
And yeah, I quickly glanced over, what in case anybody's confused with my introduction when I mentioned the Bubba Wallace and the whole Michael Jordan thing. If no one's familiar, Michael Jordan owns the team that Bubba drives for, 23XI, along with Denny Hamlin, and we've been kind of chronicling this whole lawsuit that's been going on for quite some time now with 23XI and their chartered position. Well, as of last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was only last week. They got denied officially for their charter, which put kind of some speculation on whether the two main drivers for 23XI, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, would stay with 23XI or they would venture off because the team would kind of get dissolved because they, I guess, can't afford to sponsor drivers in their cars without like a guarantee that they'll be able to make the races. I still don't know the exact ins and out of what this whole like charter thing is. We talked about it briefly a few episodes ago, but it's still something to maybe look into. I should probably know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to this whole charter thing more in depth. But as far as Bubba Wallace is concerned, we have talked about how it's likely that he gets a win this season. We've also said the same thing for Tyler Reddick, just because those things generally tend to go together. And we've noticed that Denny Hamlin has been a huge beneficiary of this lawsuit background storyline. He's been killing it. He's got three or four wins. I can't remember exactly now. Does he have four? He picked up
I think
four.
he's got 4. Yeah.
Yeah, he has 4 wins this season. So he's having one of the better seasons of his career. And he just got a huge extension with Gibbs. Because he drives for Gibbs, yet he co-owns 23XI. So once I've even spoken on this, how it just seems like a conflict of interest. It's kind of weird, but regardless, he gets a huge extension, and he's been killing it alongside. All the while his team is being countersued by not countersued, but defended it. He's in court with NASCAR over this whole charter position thing. And apparently it'll be early next year. At the end of this year, they will go to court. I think it might have said December. I can't remember. And for a secondary lawsuit and discovery and things of that nature. Long-winded way of saying they've put them in the headlines, and we've noticed that, that tends to, drive their ability, no pun intended, their ability to, get wins on the track. For people that might not understand what I mean by that is multiple. We've had that Kyle Larson sticks out in my mind still, Mr. 201. His publicist, his manager, dropped dead along with another manager it was actually like a beat writer for NASCAR. Two big guys dropped dead in connection to Hendrick Motorsports, and who he drives for, and him personally, because it was his agent or manager or whatever it was, or publicist. Not publicist, that's like a book deal. Yeah, his agent. And he goes on to not only win the Cup Series, but the Xfinity that week too. He goes back to back. Similar to Van Gisbergen, he gets put on the cover of the NASCAR poster for the race in Mexico, which is like this big ordeal because it's obviously because it's an international thing they're doing, so there's a lot of fanfare about it. But randomly, he makes his way onto the poster for that, along with the one Mexican driver, Daniel Suarez. Well, what does Gisbergen do? He hops down to Xfinity, wins that, hops back up to Cup Series, wins that. So there's a complete correlation with headlines and news and for teams and owners and drivers and their subsequent wins. So all that to say that he has been highly publicized as of late. So I'm not surprised that he did win. I wouldn't have said that I had it penciled in or anything like that. We didn't really come to a prediction phase last week, unfortunately. But I'm willing to say I didn't expect it to be this week. I certainly didn't see anything that pointed towards it. Of course, later in the week, that's when these articles drop about how he might be leaving 23XI and he might be a free agent. So him and Tyler Reddick. So I also saw a lot, a good amount of pointing at Kyle Larson to because he's always done well at Indianapolis. So there was a talk of him repeating Brickyard, but apart from that, not a whole lot in my mind that I saw pointed at him, and even doing a little bit more digging onto why he possibly won. Not a huge tell, but I'm sure it's something. Of course, they're racing in Indianapolis, which equals 201. So at the very least, we've done a bang up job of exposing the 201s around the country at these tracks, haven't we?
Oh yeah, we've had quite a few. We've had some 201s come through already this year too, and we thought one was going to come through last week as well. And yeah, that's what I was thinking yesterday too. And I was looking at it, I'm like, man, I see Bubba qualified second, but I'm like, they're really going to give him the win at the Brickyard? I mean, I could see him definitely getting a win a lot of their tracks, but I'm like, I don't know if they're going to give it to him at the Brickyard. But I mean, there has been other people that have won the Brickyard, but the Brickyard's always kind of one of those races where sometimes you will get kind of a surprise winner. The race won't exactly go the way you think it's going to go. There's been some races there. Like I said, there's like that Paul Menard win back in 2011 where
Hell
he
yeah.
won there. Yeah, there's always even when I was look at the race day too, and they were referencing that too. They were like, and Brian Blaine with that Menards are like, oh yeah, that's like the Paul Menard car. That reminds me of the Paul Menard car, like when Paul Menard won here and stuff. So they're kind of referencing that. So it's kind of like,
whose car? Blaney's car, you said?
yeah, because he has got that Menard sponsor.
Oh, he does.
That yellow.
Oh, see, that would have been something to potentially know too. See, I've spoken. Sorry, but it would be nice to have a clearer picture of like what the sponsors are each week. They need to
Yeah,
do that.
that's what I wish I knew yesterday too. I mean, not like I would have for sure known by looking at the sponsor that it was going to be a bubble win, but I kind of see it somewhat. Just so that you can kind of tell this way the cars look and the sponsors and stuff. You can kind of tell who might win or might have a winning car if the car looks maybe just has a certain look to it or a certain color or something that it's possibly would win. His car is pretty colorful, the Chumba Casino car, so I guess that had something to do with it. But yeah, just very interesting. I'm pretty sure he's raced at this sponsor in this car before. I don't think this was the
I guess
first
it's his
time.
primary sponsor.
Huh. Yeah, maybe it looks different other weeks, or it's got different paint schemes.
Well, he does McDonald's as well, or at least he did. Maybe
Yeah.
I haven't seen a McDonald's one though. So
Yeah, I
maybe
still
they
remember
just
his car
sponsor
being
him as a
colorful.
driver and not his car. I thought I've seen him drive a McDonald's car though.
Yeah, he's definitely driven the McDonald's car.
Okay, but I guess not this year. Trump's in office. He's like, you're not ruining McDonald's for me. That
Yeah.
not that driver. I can't talk like this. But okay. So its primary is Chumba Casino. Good stuff. And you mentioned Chumba Casino. 46 threw in the 71 there. 46 is a big number with sacrifice. It always plays in the sacrifice game, it seems. But also Brickyard equals 46.
Yeah.
So A little bit interesting there.
Yeah, and maybe that 46, like all the sacrifice and the deaths this week. So I thought that maybe kind of play. That's kind of what I see from it. Because I figured this race being such a prestigious race, I mean, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard, and the Coke 600, the three biggest races of the year. This being like the second biggest, so it's like definitely has to pay homage to this week and everything that's been going on. So it's like you look at this race and it's like kind of what I was figuring too. And then yeah, like I said, if I'd have seen that he was which car he was racing, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot still alluding to, like I said, a Bubba win, but um, it'll be interesting to see the next couple weeks how things play out as well. Because I know Iowa's next week, and then we go back to the road course at the Glen, and you got to wonder is it going to be a 4 for 4 for Ginsburg in that 88? Because right now the Xfinity 88 just couldn't be crushing it more. So Ginsburg, it might be keeping that streak going, just 88 everything.
And yeah, for those who don't know what he means by that, in the other series, this is just more confirmation that we're on these narratives for sure. I was hot on the trail to 88 ever since I first laid eyes on it. First, the Indianapolis 500, I was like, who drives this 88? Just because Trump took out did the pace car for the first race of the season. And we've seen where that's come. He's now won 3 races, and he's alluding to him potentially winning on the next road course. But check this out, guys. Connor Zilic, number 88. He has been on a tear ever since when? Ever since when? He won last week. He's won this week. He won the week before that. Even Van Gisbergen took second there. Huh, okay. Who was the last person to win besides him?
And he finished
88.
second. He finished second to
Exactly.
Ginsburg.
It's been 80, nothing but 88s. And you might say 88s. Gisbergen is number 9. Well, he's more well known for his number in the Cup Series, which is 88. So,
and 88's been a good number in NASCAR too. Like Dale Jarrett had a lot of success driving the 88 in the Ford Quality Care car, and then the UPS. And then Dale Jr. drove the 88 too. Those have been the 2 most successful 88 cars and drivers. But yeah, Jarrett had won the championship in '99 in the 88. So, and he's had some really good seasons in it. So yeah, that 88, it's been around. It's come and gone as being a contender and stuff. But yeah, it's just weird how it's popped up lately, and the people that have been winning these total no-namers, people that just kind of come out the woodwork and just explode, and then you just see them driving the 88. It all makes sense.
He's got
He's young,
his
19.
birthday was just last week too. So he was 18 just last. He was 18 in the middle of his three-peat.
18 and dominating the series. I mean,
yeah.
Unreal. This guy's future can be brighter.
And
could have been doing this since he was 10.
Yeah, I talked to him to Austin briefly before we started, and I mean, he has like 5 or 6 wins in the Xfinity Series this year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see his name in the Cup Series next year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is he's a developmental driver for Trackhouse. So another team that's been super within the news, which they're like dissolving. There's talk of them completely dissolving. They lost Daniel Suarez, who was like, I think arguably their most, I don't know, I guess their most, I don't know what to call it, but the driver they had the most prestige. I don't know, not prestige with them. Either way, I think so. It was, who else was it in? It's like, who else is in Trackhouse?
Ross Chastain's and
Chastain. That's the other
yeah.
guy. So they're very similar to 23XI. There's been this whole thing, and this, they Pitbull used to be a part of this, and we've covered this back in the day too for similar reasons, because they like to bring up this drama in the background, and what ends up happening is races are won, or not always are race race won. Oh, that's so hilarious. He drives for WeatherTech. That's crazy. Okay, that's something I didn't know. So WeatherTech sponsors this guy too. They love their 88s. We'll have to look more into WeatherTech. That I think we did a little bit, but they seem kind of obscure. I don't really understand, other than the funny jokes with them driving the WeatherTech car and getting, coming out on top in rain to, inclement weather. It's interesting. So yeah. Anyway, so another thing bringing him and Gisbergen together. So
Dominate the series at 18. Just turn 18. I'm making millions, just dominating. Just life's just handed right to you. Got the 88, and you're all good to go.
And he's got that pi birthday, that secondary pi birthday. You'd say March 14th would be the biggest pi day, the first three letters of pi, but 22 divided by 7 is the mathematical fuck. I was a math whiz, but anyway, it's to solve for pi, or to solve for the circumference of a circle. Sorry, radius, whatever. So obviously it was only 5 days ago from his last birthday, but what about to his next? 360, like a circle, and he's got that pi birthday. Holy shit. I didn't mean to walk into that one, but all right. That's interesting. His birthday is the 203rd day of the year. Okay. So we'll have to look out for him either regardless.
Oh, yeah.
And then I didn't know if you noticed, but it was September 14th. Interesting. Since the Pope's last birthday, 316 days later, that's, very, I would say the average American's most known Bible, if you were to ask them any Bible quote, I'm sure a large percentage would go to John 3:16. Hell, a lot of wrestling fans would say
Austin 3:16.
Austin 3:16, baby. So it is definitely well known. So that stood out to me, especially with the wrestling news in the headlines.
Yeah, absolutely.
And best believe, it might have started earlier in the season, for Pope Francis, and it certainly did. We definitely found some ties to the earlier races, and our thumbnails allude to that. We've had some pretty fire thumbnails with the Pope in NASCAR, but the former Pope in NASCAR. But yeah, they're business as usual with the new Pope. So in the same way that these races are pay homage to Trump in the same in the same sense that these are puppets on the world stage. That I could get into it, but it's a whole diatribe. We've talked about it several times. It's the real. Well, not to take away that magic could be real. The magic you think about from like movies, and I'm not saying that. I actually would err on the side of it being very possible that magic is possible in those aspects. But the magic that's being played on us, the spells that we're under, have to do with bringing things about into existence through manipulation and basically puppeteering. It's like that's their form of magic, is like the ability to throw their voice, almost like that's their magic. They can impose their will and upon millions of people. You tell somebody that, and take them aside and be like, hey, I can make 1 million people all do the same thing at once. That's pretty magical, you know. When you find out how they did it, it's very evil and rooted in a reason, but it's still a person's motive being set forth upon millions of people. That's what magic is, and that's what we are under. And that's why you see things like coronavirus. That's how you can see magic in real time. Everybody running out and fighting and stomping each other over toilet paper, that's magic. If you tell me give me one other good reason for why they did it, and I'm all ears. But that's just, tip of the iceberg with what they do. But that's just an example. Some might say it's a shit example. But anyway.
You can't ignore all the 56s.
That's true. Huge 56 ritual in coronavirus, that's for sure. So, a quick look ahead, I think, before we get into a couple of things that we missed the last couple of episodes. We have coming up, like you said, Iowa. Now, what do you see coming in for Iowa? That's what are we supposed to be looking at here?
Yeah, Iowa's a newer track racing for NASCAR. I know they raced there quite a bit, like Xfinity and I think truck, but I don't think there's a ton of. I don't know how many years they've been racing there in Cup. I know they've been going there a few years now, at least. Maybe since like 2022 or so. I can't remember, but yeah, the history there is still kind of building. I can't remember who won there last year. I can't remember. It was
like Blaney.
Yeah, Blaney, that's who it was. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I heard today. There's been a lot of flooding and stuff in Iowa and stuff like that. Iowa, Illinois. So this should be I wonder if there's going to be some news coming out of Iowa this week or something around there.
Iowa Speedway. Well, it's a fateful day to race, August 3rd. The 83s and the 38s are no joke.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure we'll see a lot of headlines that will play into what this race eventually comes out to. Wow. Address 3333 Rusty Wallace Drive.
It's very interesting, yeah.
Wonder why 3333. Probably no reason. I would assume just it's a good number. Beautiful number.
Yeah, Rusty Wallace never drove the 33. Now, come on. Why would you put that number? And right after Bubba wins, big Bubba Wallace, you got to go to Rusty Wallace Drive?
I was legitimately thinking that. Rusty Wallace. Anyway, not getting too far sidetracked. What we got with Iowa? Iowa's some fun numbers there. Some familiar numbers. The reshuffling of 84 and 42, like Jesuit. Iowa's got the 60 as well with the 60th presidential election. Let's check out the Speedway. 56.
56. We were just talking about 56, yeah.
Exactly. And where exactly is this? Newton, Iowa. Newton.
Yeah, when I've driven through Iowa, I think I've seen the signs for this place. I don't know. I think I've been right by it. I know I've been through Newton and Des Moines and stuff, so plenty of times.
It's got the 139 like Freemasonry. Who founded it? Started out in IndyCar. Okay. Oh, okay, maybe not. The Clement family.
Yeah, they only raced there a few times in Cup so far, so there hasn't been too much history yet.
Jerry Carroll. There's a Carroll in every like when you're hip to it, you start seeing Carrolls all over the place. They definitely got the memo to spread their seed. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah,
very prominent Jesuit bears that Carroll surname. So anyway, nothing's crazy is popping out. I would have liked to see the most recent race. I'm supposing it was Blaney though. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was hearing Blaney won it last year.
So, Iowa's IA, I believe. Let's see. This is
38.
Is it? Let me just double check.
I think it is IA. Yeah. AI backwards.
But yeah, they're racing in Newton, Iowa on 3/8. So it's interesting that they got this scheduled pretty perfectly, if you ask me.
Yeah, 43, like NASCAR 43.
Oh, that's true. I was trying to remember the NASCAR numbers, but obviously it has the 56. I don't know if you mentioned that when we first saw the Iowa Speedway, but that's what you said. You mentioned 56, and I immediately thought of NASCAR, but I don't know if I said that or not.
Yep, NASCAR big 56.
And why we say big, and we're talking about Jesuits and everything, but calling card of their formal title, Society of Jesus Equals 56. And a lot of Jesuits in control during the time of the scandemic. So I could go down the entire list of 56, but I'll refrain myself. It's for another episode. Or one we've already done, either way.
Yeah, the 56 show for episode 56.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be good. I think it's getting close to being a good time for a refresher. There's always new ways to approach it. There's several things I've wanted to talk about too, without getting too far into it. But I definitely wanted to do kind of like more of an expose on the Jesuits, just kind of with the idea of like how do they skirt responsibility for their history. Everybody else has got to pay up. Even the Catholic Church, who they serve, they've had to pay, and they've even done reparations to countries that they've affected. And I'm not saying any of this stuff is super real, guys. I'm definitely on the side of this stuff is show, but as far as them paying anyone back, but yeah, I mean Jesuits were let's just say in America. And this is obviously not just in America. I'm sure if you're in Latin American countries, you're well aware of who the Jesuits are more than an American would be, because we just let them set up shop and run our cities and don't even bat an eye. But slavery was huge. They were some of the biggest movers and shakers in slavery in the early parts of our country, yet nobody cares. Nobody brings them up. I've literally never heard Jesuits brought up in the context of slavery, yet they were at the head of every table during those times. It's crazy. Like all the most famous plantations across America that still survive had Jesuit families, or at one time were owned by a Jesuit, or were the funds were gathered by Jesuits to build the plantation. So, but nobody cares. Nobody even bats an eye. They'll just blame it on white people in general, or whatever people like to do. never getting to the roots of the problem, if you will. Anyway, so yeah, I think that'd be a fun episode. But as far as next week, we're seeing some of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit fingerprints, like we generally do on at every venue across the U.S. so far. We've been able to generally dig up some piece, whether or not even not in the U.S., even in Mexico, there, some connection to this circuit, being, heavily influenced at its origins by Freemasons and Jesuits, which you might say like Jesuits and Freemasons. It's like, what's the connection there? Well, there's plenty of connections, but they also are more heavily connected by the way of Jesuits writing the rites for the Scottish rites, like this 32nd degree and another one too. But worth a Google if you don't know what I'm talking about. We've covered this several times, but so interesting to see what they have planned for next week on the kill day.
Yeah, we're getting close to playoff time too, so there's not people are running out of time to try and get a win too and try and lock themselves in the playoffs. So still some people who haven't won, but it could be a repeat winner as well.
You even have the Iowa corn equaling 44 and 46 like sacrifice, but a 44 is another heavy kill number. Yeah, kill equaling 44. Yeah,
Like
murder.
Wisconsin connected to Iowa, Wisconsin 44.
Yep. Yeah, murder's the big 83-38 connection. So whenever you have an August 3rd or a March 8th, look out.
We got more deaths coming this week or something big.
I would
Or
not doubt
maybe
it.
after Iowa, yeah. Maybe after Iowa.
A little bit of a palate cleanser from this week, with the big ones, of course, being started off with Ozzy Osbourne, and a lot of people won't bat an eye. Oh, he was. Oh, that's interesting. That's right. Connor Zilich's birthday was the day Ozzy died. Huh.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
And he died in Jordans. Not the shoes. Maybe the shoes too. Maybe he also
Yeah.
died in some J's as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, no one will really bat an eye. 76 is a pretty healthy age for, a drugged out rock star who, used up all of his youth going hard. People will give these definitely give these the interesting. His middle name's Michael too, huh? Dies in Jordans. Interesting. But they'll give these the pass whenever they hear. Similarly, we'll touch on Hulk Hogan as well. The only rock stars are, second only to rock stars in drug use and body, pushing your body past its breaking point in your youth, do wrestlers. So two profound personalities that passed one right after the other, as you can see, 2 days after Ozzy.
And they say 6'7", which comes out to be 201 centimeters tall too.
Of course. Of course, there's always something with these dudes. Interestingly enough, as well, you might think also, like you mentioned, the the crazy weather that's been happening. I wouldn't want to be in Florida coming up here. Not only is it hurricane season brewing up, but he has the Harp Patton birthday, and
Yeah.
he died in Florida. So
Yeah.
this could be, what you might be asking what the connection is. The connection is that these things require sacrifice. This ritual magic requires blood sacrifice because the people that are doing these rituals are playing God. And what does the Bible's playbook say? That there is a blood sacrifice required. Now, you might, this isn't to say that to do magic in front of you, that's not, really what I mean by that. It's just like they go by this playbook, this biblical playbook, in order to have a blueprint to follow, almost like a creed. And I have my reasons for why they do this, and not to say that these are Christians doing this, or Christians, quote unquote, but they definitely use the Bible as a playbook, clearly, as blasphemy. So it neither proves nor disproves the stories in the Bible or the validity of the Bible, in my opinion, but it's separate from the Bible. And a lot of people might draw a conclusion with it. I don't think that'd be very fair to do, to paint the Bible. I have my own, beliefs about, the book, the written word, and what its purpose is. But I'm just saying, separate from that, the people that are pulling the strings, using the Bible as like an anti playbook, is no fault of the Bible's, in my opinion. It's separate from it. They are a cult of their own, and they're basically, if you were to believe that the God of the Bible or Jesus Christ was the Superman figure, they're just playing Lex Luthor to fulfill that villain role, because they follow the villain of the Bible. That is the main connection of the powers that be and the biblical prophecy that they go by. I'm kind of going on a diatribe here, but really, when it comes down to it, keep this in mind, guys, that no matter how mundane you might think it is, a lot of these stories on the main stage, they play a biblical role. Um, Freemasons, their playbook is biblical as well. Their iconography comes from real life people, well, assumed real life people who supposedly, were living in the times where, you know, God's wrath or miracles took place. So, King Solomon, David, Herod, these people. So, a lot of these sacrifices, these deaths, you might think of them as deaths on the main stage. These things are either not taking place, or they, just as placeholder, because at the end of the day, it affects us. The effect it has on us is the true purpose. Like I said, the magic in it is how it affects us and moves us. So whether or not these people actually die, no one can, super be for sure. But if they are dying, he knew. Let me put it that way. He knew that this was definitely a possibility. And I think there is a numbers game involved on top of the gematria. There's also the numbers of popularity. Like, you're not going to get rid of your hottest asset. And you might think of like some of the biggest stars that have died, Kobe, and who some would even say is like in his prime. Yeah, like in his popularity, yeah, he was in a good spot with his popularity, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tiger Woods drops dead tomorrow. They are not
Right.
in that. They're not like, the larger character you play, the more you better keep that character right on the tip of people's brains, because if you fall out of that, you got all of the riches and all of the things that that big time character gets, and now you think you can just go into obscurity and what, be a D, just go down to a D level guy and just live. That's not how that works. You have to maintain that A status for your cabal, or else you're risking, you know, you and your daughter sayonara.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like I said, with all three of these deaths this week, they all they all equaled 201, all the ages. Yeah, and it was all obviously with just one big ritual. I mean, it just kind of just kept unfolding. Yeah, first guy, definitely least familiar with him. More obviously, a lot more familiar with Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan. But yeah, all
You didn't
this
know
is
this
just.
guy?
I knew. I'm pretty sure I've heard of him, but
His child face was really popular. I feel like a lot of things used his face from the Cosby Show for like other things. His like that face is almost the exact face he had as a child. This one right here. It's just old. If you were to just take the picture that was used a lot back in the day from the Cosby Show, him as a child, and like that's it, just and just like age it, it would just instantly become like, anyway, like you just do a like a day-to-day timeline. This is, he looks the exact same in this exact pose right here. But yeah, I don't know anything else that he was in it to go off what you were saying.
yeah, and all these guys just died a couple days apart, and his birthday is just or a week after Hulk Hogan. So it's interesting how um that they picked these people for this week. I mean, it's all um you had a guy that's on TV show, you got a rock star, and then you got a wrestler. So you got three different people that um had three different big roles, purposes in life, but you bring them all together for a ritual. It's interesting how they pick these people in these times to do this. And yeah, it's just, whenever things like this happen, it's always a big sign to look ahead to. I mean, with this week, I mean, all this going on and this month and all the mockery and everything, you got to think right now they're setting up something big and major for August, whatever is just around the corner. Because whenever you see these things, I mean, you look at when Kobe died, he had COVID, Kobe, COVID, Cobain, COVID, Kobe, all this uh, similarities, all these mockings they got to give you. So you got to think um, something will brew up in the weeks or days ahead from this, and just a sign of something bigger coming around the corner. And with like I said, just three different, you had like I said, with all, rock stars dying and all, such a um, Prince of Darkness, Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, the Hulkster. So you have different, and a lot of people a lot of people were big into people like Ozzy and the Hulk. I mean, there's a lot of people that were really big into those two. So, or at least one of them, if not both of them. So, um, they knew who to kind of target and go after to do these rituals and to set this up for everything. And uh, yeah, I mean, you had, like I said, IHS equals 18. Hulk Hogan dies 18 days from his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
All this is perfectly lined and set up and ready to go. It's amazing how they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you take speaking of that moniker, Prince of Darkness, obviously who's that alluding to? They say Lucifer means the light bearer, but he's his other title being the Prince of Darkness is um, probably uh, more often used for Luciferians and things of that nature. But yeah, Prince of Darkness equals 177, common number. You have, you see the 93, and that's no slouch either. You think of Saturn. It's a huge number with Saturn. Of course, it has the 21 and 42, just like Jesuit. But that 93, they say the Saturn was the original sun. There's something called the Saturnian order as well. Another 201, 177, 93. So that 93 pops up in
And
also
69, like Illuminati too. 69, it's a big number.
Very true. Very true. Illuminati 69. And then to go with that, I'll just misphrase it here, but Order of Illuminati, another 93, and that 201. So you see the connection here that these societies are all intertwined. They all go off of, which, by the way, I do get a part of anyone's journey. I think looking for truth. We're on YouTube, so we might as well discuss it. If you're on YouTube and you're looking for maybe not truth necessarily, but like exposés and things of that nature, you're starting to feel like you're on a roll with, maybe it's COVID that inspired you, maybe it's 9/11, maybe it's one of these quote unquote conspiracy theory rabbit hole like mindsets that you're in right now. Do yourself a favor. I don't have anything to recommend right at the moment. I do have a couple of channels, I guess, that might cover something along those lines, but really do a deep dive on do your best to do a deep dive on secret societies in general. It'd be wise to inform yourself on the Illuminati, to know that it's very real, and the memes are just that. They're distractions. That's what memes are. It was real from the very first joke that was made about the Illuminati. The X-Files music with the the eye in the pyramid that just became a meme at the beginning of the internet. It was real then. It's still real now, and yet they filled your guys' brain with propaganda to say that you're a quack for thinking of them as anything but like an obscure joke. But we all know that that's not real. It's not something that celebrities just reference to be like edgy or jokey or anything like that. These things are real. But also, go a little bit deeper. There is one channel that I don't want to recommend for every single thing that they espouse, but which no one should. But with any channel, probably there's things that you're going to disagree with. But Old World Florida, if you were to go into their catalog, they cover a lot of things to do with secret societies. They've made it kind of a point of covering a lot of those secret societies. Anyway, just do some research, do your own rabbit hole digging, but go into the secret societies so that you can understand that Skull and Bones, Lock and Key, all these secret societies, whether they're university secret societies or global secret societies, which a lot of these are, but they're front organizations kept into very much like the mafia. They have hubs, but they're larger than that. Illuminati, these Freemasons, they have connections that go a lot deeper than anything super surface level. There's a reason they don't have the connection surface level. It's because they have flocks of people in their midst that have no idea about the next level. They're there to fill the ranks. It reminds me of NASA, how there's a bunch of pencil pushers and button, key pushers at NASA that think they're doing the job that they're assigned to do when they're probably just like running a never-ending algorithm and getting paid exorbitant amount of monies to do so. So they'll never question it or fight against it. Well, the same way that, Masons keep a base level of, fat dudes that just want to hang out with other dudes and are probably antisocial in some ways and want to get together and like play pool and be in an exclusive club. That's real. You will find plenty of people that are just Freemasons because they got into that club that have no idea about that are any part of the upper echelon of planning and infrastructure within those societies that combine with all of the other ones. So I kind of brought that up on the back of the Saturnian order, because you might look it up and say, oh yeah, but that is some like archaic thing. Well, it's like, no, these people take from other things, like the Jesuit order. They're modeled after the Templars, which I would say aren't even gone. But if you look at the Templars, they're very similar to the order, the Knights of Malta. And you look at the Knights of Malta, and it's just keep going, guys, just keep going, and then you'll start to have pattern recognition, and you won't need to know every single secret society in and outs. You'll have just the overview, and once you have the overview, you don't need all of the chafe and all of the understanding of each individual secret society. That might even be what they want you to do. They want you to think of them as monolithic, or as like individual things. What you need to think of is the monolith that they are. They fall under there. They all hold the umbrella together. They're all under it together at the top of their organizations. But yeah, that'd be my one thing, is if you're not there yet on your journey, just veer off wherever you're at, however low you are on your truth journey. Just stop whatever you're doing right now and go look at secret societies, get a better understanding of them, and begin to see it everywhere else in the world. Everywhere you'll understand. You'll see the names. You'll see the schools. You'll see all the signs that, for better, that we're able to see, and that, the greater gematria community at large is able to see, or at least the serious contributors.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said too, with these guests and everything too. I mean, there's um a lot of energy harvesting going on right now, especially with these deaths this week too. I mean, just moving people. I mean, and they've done it just big time this month. I mean, like I said, with you had the all the floods and flooding and stuff that affected people and screwed over a lot of people and did a lot of damage. A lot of weather warfare this month. Last month you had, like I said, the riots and the protests doing the damage, and now what do you have now to kind of finish up the month? You got these deaths that's gonna, like I said, a lot of people, either all three of these guys, or one of the three, or two of the three, or Hulk Hogan and Ozzy, or whatever. A lot of people were big into these people or look up to them, or so it affected a lot of people this week with what they've done. So this is why you gotta um, really understand and pay attention. Like I said, it's maybe you're a music person, it was Ozzy. Maybe you're a music and a wrestling person, it was Hulk Hogan and Ozzy. Or you love the Cosbys and the other guy, or like I said, maybe it was just Hulk Hogan because you were just the biggest wrestling fan. So however they wanted to reach people and attack people this week and um, Matthew, they threw it out there a lot of different ways, and they put it all together with this big massive ritual that just swooped all these guys up in one swoop for the big week. And that's like I said, it's what they do. And then like I said, it always bleeds into something big coming afterwards. So whatever this was about, it's just gonna like I said, they're gonna get the energy harvesting, they're gonna get all people's energy from it, and then they're gonna turn into their next ritual, their next event. And it could be right at the start of August. I'm sure August is there's going to be some major massive event for the end of the summer here. They're always uh, got to do something. And this is going to be, I think, what it stems off of is probably this, because it was a big week. I mean, generally you don't get weeks like this with just, pow, 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 just these deaths like this.
Absolutely. And it's been brought up in Zach's community as well, that, it's been a long time, honestly. What was the last biggest death? Hard to say. Not necessarily amnesia based, but I know Mike Matthew. Oh, I guess Val Kilmer was a big one, and that wasn't that long ago.
We had the Popey too this year. We had the Popey.
True, very true. So I guess it's not that far removed from individual large, big name deaths, but you're absolutely right. Three, cultural icons in their own right. Because you got to think of it too. It's like more people might actually see Malcolm Jamal Warner than Ozzy or Hulk Hogan in their daily lives. That show has been syndicated for ever since it came out. So you know how many people sit in front of their TV and with just old shows running all day long?
Oh yeah.
It's extremely popular. So it's like, I'm sure he was doing good with royalties, but yeah, that, you know, more people might have seen him than would have ever seen Hulk Hogan or Ozzy at the end of their career, even with Ozzy's last tour and everything. And we could talk about how Ozzy was on tour, which is like crazy to think about, but he just happened to be on tour again as well. And
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan just, you know, endorsed Trump and did his whole ritual with, you know, ripping his shirt off and doing, you know, praising MAGA. And, you know, what, how could I tie all these things together? Uh, well, you know, there's definitely evidence of Cosby being potentially a Freemason, which, you know, that could, he could either be Prince Hall or not. You know, there's not every black person who's a Freemason is only Prince Hall. At a certain point, that's kind of how it worked. But it's, you know, think of Denzel Washington and Shaq and all these people aren't Prince Hall Freemasons. They are, you know. Anyway, you have that connection with that secret society, and then you have, you know, Hulk Hogan, you know, being saved, supposedly being saved and baptized and all this everything, only to come out and praise MAGA, the highest degree of the Satanic Church, right before he died. And then you have, of course, Ozzy. Yeah, I don't think that takes much explanation there, with, you know, where he stood. And you know, you could say it was a facade and an act to an extent, but you know, that's, you're still gonna get, you know, what's his face was not front facing nearly as much. Who's the one who did that interview and was like, you got to sell your soul to the, you know, to the commander in chief of this world. Son of a, it'll come to me randomly. But you know, arguably the one of the biggest rock stars ever, on in an interview, basically said you got to sell your soul to Satan or whatever. Obviously, Ozzy's seen that contract and probably had his contract, you know, updated several times in his life. But so it's just like there's a connection with these, you know, seemingly separate entities as well. You know, there's still that connection at the esoteric level that people, you know, it's just behind the surface that people might not understand the connection between all those people. But I brought up briefly too, I guess I can just one more time since it's easy enough. But the Cosby Show, the connection there with 201 and Malcolm Jamal Warner. Of course, you mentioned that all three of their ages add up to 201, but the Cosby Show also ran for 201 episodes.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, people are still going to
201 centimeters tall. The 201 is just all over this thing.
And then isn't Ozzy Osbourne just 201?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne,
Yep.
201. So
And 123 and 51, the conspiracy.
51, 123, exactly. I'll write that out. Conspiracy 123 and 51. And 51's no slouch of a number when we were just talking about Illuminati too. Adam Weishaupt, who you know, the Bavarian Illuminati was formed on May 1st, 5/1. And you have by Adam Weishaupt. Wow, I got it right. Let's go. 51. So
like Area 51.
Perfect example. That's, you know,
yeah. Area 52, Area 51.
Gosh, dude, it really is just, and you could say that, you know, you're grasping at straws, or you're, what is it? confirmation bias. That's everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If anyone says that to me in real life, I don't actually know how I would react. I'm so like annoyed by it online, which I just have to sit here and just be annoyed. But if someone said that to me in actual real life, I'm not not like I'm a violent person or anything. It's just like, man, I might go off because like it's such an annoying thing that you could just take somebody's body of work and boil it down to confirmation bias. You could take obvious pattern recognition and boil it down to confirmation bias and like, oh, you are just looking for that. It's like, bitch, I'm not some editor at a newspaper. I'm not some editor of an online. I didn't write these headlines. I'm not Tyler Fry saying it feels so good when I arrest Luigi Mangione. That's an, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go into it, but that's another one people might say we missed. Another big headline, maybe definitely the least known of all these people, but it's weird because to me, I thought he was a lot more famous than he was because I knew about him at a young age through King of the Hill, but I ended up liking that one song. Feel So Good is a bop. If you guys haven't heard that song, you don't have to be a fan of jazz or anything like that. It says jazz, but Feel So Good is much more of a like a poppy kind of like song. Anyway, you should give it a listen to if you haven't heard it, Austin. I used to just listen to it on repeat. It's a good song. But he would play it on King of the Hill. He like lived in the store because he was like broke on the show. He was like washed up. He played himself in King of the Hill, and he was like washed up, and he like lived in the like Walmart in King of the Hill. He like lived behind the toilet paper. But at night he would go on the roof and play Feel So Good with his trumpet. Anyway, so he another death, same day as Ozzy, and lots of connections between him and Ozzy. And, you know, he might look like some fun-loving guy, and maybe he was, but he was in the industry, and he definitely sold his soul, and he definitely had an era. He had a lot of interesting things in his life. Whether it is, without getting too far into it, you guys can follow Zach's channel. He's covered this, but interesting dude for sure. You can see it right there, just barely. But, yeah, so he's known for Feels So Good. Anyway, he died at 84. So yeah, you have the 201 of the main three, and then of course you got another guy dying at 84. No,
84, Jesuit 84.
Exactly. Jesuit Order 84, Jesuit 84, right here. And it reminds that Luigi Mangione was just recently back in the news after, you know, radio silence, which, you know, it's been a running joke on our channel because ever since we covered him, I swear, like nobody cared about this like for the longest time. So it was just funny. Something I'd never really thought about. He's got a 5/6 birthday, May 6th.
Yeah.
But see, even just a day ago. There's a musical they're putting out. Imagine this. You have Ozzy Osbourne and Chuck Mangione die on the same day, and then they announce a musical for Luigi Mangione. A guy who killed a guy on the side of a road, which you never saw dead. Ever. You never saw any evidence of it. And if you did, tell me where to find it. Not that I have a sick mind or anything, but you see, that's the other annoying thing about the world we live in. Reality should not be distorted. When you distort reality to, under the guise of protecting the constituents, that is the way corruption seeps in. Because if you can say, oh, the reason why, Jeffrey Epstein's cell wasn't on there. And trust me, I'm not any Jeffrey Epstein believer, if you will. I think, all of that's a scam. All of it's a sham. It is a red herring. It is a look at me, look at me, look at me. Well, everybody escapes out the back door. And I don't think it's some list of 100 people either. And the more people want that list of 100 people, the more you fall into the trap of you're never getting that fake list, and you're never going to understand that this is a scam to get you to not realize that there is a global cabal that harvests our kids from us. People will never understand how many kids go missing from amusement parks, carnivals, and national parks across this country every single year. And that if you were to put them up on on like a chart on a map, there's huge hubs of child disappearances, but we're not. No one's really working in your benefit to track those people down. Cash Patel's not on it. Um, that other chick, she's not on it. It's on my desk. The people just falling for this drama with the Epstein and Trump and all this stuff. It is defeating the real life duty of all of us, to be consistent with our kids and understand warning signs, but B, there are plenty of people, helpless kids that are born into this, that will are never going to see the light of day, and they love to make shows about it and all this other stuff. I feel like I'm cooking enough here that this is going to bleed into our main topic, so I'm just going to get this off the screen. But because we are so addicted to fake news, because we're so addicted to it, it blinds us to the reality that it is much larger. You have this idea that the scandal, the Diddy, the Epstein, the Clintons, and all these things, that they paint that as larger than life. So your brain caps out the evil. It caps it out. What you need to understand is that it's way bigger. It's actually way bigger than that. And because you're underselling it, you think that it's solvable. You think that it's something our government could handle. If our government was on the up and up, you would assume that it's something our American government could handle. We got the best and brightest minds in the FBI and CIA. They could get on this, and they're working on it, and they're going to figure it out. That's rose-colored glasses. That's saying the FBI and CIA are all up and up organizations. We know they're not. So already this shit is a pipe dream. But when you find out that this is much, much larger, not to mention that those organizations that you list, they're part and parcel to these grooming gangs and things of that nature, and kidnapping and mind control at a young age, and sleeper cell, Manchurians, all these different things. And they'll give you the media so you can have your movie and your show, and you think that you think you have a grasp on what this is all about. But no, there's real life trauma facing, I'm assuming, millions of kids. They're that really have no silver lining, no hope, because we're all so baffled. We're all so starstruck at what they present to us that we're never going to see past the illusion and see that we could pull that curtain down and make a real impact. But instead, we're disillusioned to where, there's generations and generations that are going to be thrust upon us at some point. The the sad reality is the brainwashed youth, not just the ones that are on your couch right now watching their tablet or TV, but the ones that are being manipulated and brainwashed physically and emotionally and spiritually in real life, behind closed doors, in warehouses and bunkers and dumbs everywhere. They will be thrust. There will be a reckoning. This stuff doesn't happen for free. And I hope so. I'm praying that this stuff doesn't happen for free. Honestly, whatever happens there, it will be a failing of us as humans, and there will be some sort of something that should be paid for the people that are living right now. And this is what I walk around with. I'm one person. I don't have some like group behind me that can truly make the impact that I know needs to be made. but it's still frustrating knowing what needs to be done and knowing so few people would be willing to do it because they're so stuck on Trump and politics and Epstein and all this daytime drama that they would never even be able to get past that in order to confront this beast head on.
100%. And the thing is, like, this is such a topic. Like, when you talk about trauma and childhood trauma, and you talk about like narcissism and stuff like that, this is a subject that, we talk about weather warfare, and um, we talk about the flooding, and, volcanoes, and Mount Rainier is going to blow up and kill us, and all this stuff's happening, all this other stuff going on. But more dangerous than the big one on the West Coast, the Mount Rainier blowing up, the flooding, tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, all this other stuff. What's even more affected than that is just, like I said, the childhood trauma going on in today's world, the trauma in general, and like I said, narcissism on the rise. And this was stuff that people didn't really know what it was so much, like 20, 30 years ago. There wasn't a lot of information on it. Even like 15 years ago, it wasn't like something that was super well known, super talked about. People didn't have a lot of information on it. It was kind of under the radar. It wasn't a big thing like it is now. And I would love to know what the actual numbers are for just like people's like mental and emotional health, because it's just how bad it is, and just how many people are suffering, how many people have issues. um and this is something where it's just become an epidemic, and it's the biggest thing plaguing us today. And when we talk about relationships, stuff like this in this channel, everything we've talked about in this channel, I think this is the most important thing and the biggest thing going today, um especially moving forward. That's gonna have to be either dealt with, or it's gonna be the downfall, because it is. And I have my own, like I talk about, I don't really talk too much about like my personal life and my family and all the stuff that I've been through and stuff, but I have tons of massive amounts of childhood trauma myself, not even just from my family, but just like school and stuff I was through when I was young, and people around me, and just the growing up where I grew up, and just all the stuff I had to deal with where I was at. And um, it's real bad. I mean, it's real bad. I mean, I got PTSD, even like advanced complex like PTSD. Like I get jumpy and fidgety, and just I go nuts, and I got a lot of issues from it too. Uh, and it's something I've had to deal with a lot in my life. I mean, like I said, I smoke a lot of weed, and I know that helps. And lately I haven't smoked as much. I haven't been smoking as much the last few months, but I still do, and I know it's definitely helped me throughout my life. Deal with things, and help me just survive and live, especially growing up where I did and how I did. But um just the emotional, the physical, the mental, emotional, physical abuse, and just the neglect, and seeing violence, and drugs, and just all these things that people are going through today, and the kids and stuff. And like I said, I mean, for someone, and the thing is, I mean, uh, people don't realize, you never know what someone's going through. And you see so many people that are struggling, or they're down, or they should be doing way better, or they're behind in life, or they have all these problems. And this is where it all stems from. This is where it starts. I mean, uh, a lot of people that go through this stuff, they just end up dead, committing suicide, killing other people. They end up in jail, prison. A lot of people don't end up recovering from this stuff in most severe cases. Like if it's kind of minor, just some small stuff here or there, it's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't really affect people that much. But um, I know myself and others that it's been a huge impact and destruction on their life, and it's caused a lot of problems for them in later years, because You never truly get over it. It's just a huge setback for you when you don't have proper parents, or the parents that just aren't there. They shouldn't have been parents, or they're just failing at every level of being a parent. And you have shitty people, and they're going to have kids, and the kids get to start turning to be a shitty person themselves. They're not going to be who they could have been, who they should have been. And um I know for me personally, like if I had a more stable growing up, and a better um just a little bit better childhood, even, or a lot better childhood, it would drastically change where I'm at today and how I'm doing in life, and all the things that I have, and all the things that I would know and could do and stuff. And the thing is, I mean, like, when I was going through this stuff when I was younger, compared to now, it's like, now, like, what I went through is like what other people are going through. And now you see all these other kids, and now I'm seeing them and other people uh, that are around my age, like maybe your early 30s, or your 20s, or your teens. And you just see people so just behind in life, struggling, beaten down. They have tons of issues, and it all stems back to their childhood and what they went through. And just and it's really sad, and it's really devastating when you see how many people are in such a bad state. I mean, almost everyone, for the most part, that I know is not in a good place mentally, emotionally. They are a wreck for the most part. They're nuts. They have a lot of issues. Some people, it's a lot worse than others. Some people still have some kind of resemblance of normalcy, but they're still going through stuff. And it's just unbelievable when you really look at society where it is. And it's something that, especially in the last 5 years since COVID. I mean, having to live through that, I mean, that didn't do anybody any good through their mental, emotional health. Especially all the people that have been alone since that time, or they're still alone, or they've lost, all the stuff they've lost. Um, and even people that are getting trauma from, like I said, this week's news, or this month's news, with the flooding and all the stuff people have lost, in the weather warfare. I mean, that's trauma as well, natural disasters. So you have trauma everywhere. You have mental illness just everywhere. You have uh just awful people just everywhere running amok right now. And like I said, it mainly comes back to a huge part of their childhood, and it was something I always had to battle and I had to deal with. And um I had a lot of issues back in my younger days. I mean, my youth was a lot of trouble, a lot of problems. It was very bad. I mean, like I said, when I left Wisconsin, I mean, I was on my way to prison. I mean, I was broke. I was living on my floor. I was just struggling. I didn't have money for food, water. I mean, I had to sell my furniture. I was living on my floor. I had nothing. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I was in a bad way, and I was in a bad way for a lot of years, until I finally did get away and I moved. And um it's taken a long time to heal, and try and improve and get better as a person. And I have to work on it every day. And uh, I mean, if I didn't get out of there when I did, I mean, I was, like I said, I mean, I was on my way to prison. I mean, I had so much stuff going against me. I had a lot of issues back then. And at times it was real bad. It was real dark. I mean, I bounced around a lot of years, from like the age of like 17 to like 21, 22, up to when I moved to Seattle, and I was like 22. And then when I first came out here when I was 21, I mean, I was bouncing around. I was living all over. Didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I was here, I was there. Life was a mess. It was a disaster. I mean, and it wasn't any better before that either. It was ugly. It was bad. And just knowing that all the things I went through, that people are going through that and experiencing that, and I see it. I mean, there's people that are doing well, and they got things going for them, and things are all right. But then you still have all these other people that are just, they're going through it. It's a mess. And uh, you just see what society has become. I mean, this is why you have all these people that, uh, and like I said, you have all these loners now. You have all these people that have just major anxiety or depression, or PTSD, or whatever it is, and they can't even function. I mean, there's people that are, I mean, like I said, I mean, what really helped me was smoking weed and getting high is how I dealt with it, and that's what's helped me through the years. But I mean, there's people that um probably should be doing that or need that or ever. But I mean, you got people bouncing off the walls everywhere you go. I mean, there's crazy people. There's people that are going nuts. There's people that are flipping out. There's people that are losing it. Um, I mean, and it's something where it's like, at some point you got to draw the line and just say, I mean, this is just, it's just become a lost cause. I mean, with how many people are just in a bad way today. And then you have all the other things, like I said, financial situations and money and um, people struggling in that aspect and all these things that you didn't have to deal with so much in years before that are contributing to this as well. And like I said, I mean, if you were just to take a survey of how many people just their mental emotional health and just look at people and see where people are at with it, I mean, you'd find out that almost everybody is in a bad way and is struggling in some way. I mean, if it's not financials, I mean, it's something else. I mean, if it's not, if people just aren't alone and they're having a lot of issues trying to have, um, start a job or business or friends or relationships. I mean, it's whatever it is. I mean, everyone's going through something, but some people are just they're at that breaking point. There's way too many people at the breaking point. People are losing it, and it's something where in the years to come, I mean, it's not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. And it's at what point does society just finally just snap and crumble? And at what point does it just finally have enough? I mean, you have to wonder where that is because I feel like we are very, very close. And like I said, you look at a lot of the kids coming up now. Um, a lot of people just that I talk to in general, they'll say, "Hey, I got anxiety, I got depression, I got this, I got that, I got all these antidepressants people are on, all these uh, coping mechanisms people are on, and all these things people are doing. I mean, people that are cutting themselves, slicing themselves up, and like I said, I mean, you got people that just they'll flat out just flip out and do some meth and kill you and cut you up, and you just don't even know what you're dealing with because they worship Jeffrey Dahmer or something. Uh, like I said with Taylor Coronado, Taylor Ship Business that I went to high school with when she did that to what's his name 3 years ago. I mean, these are the people that I was around. These are the people that I dealt with and had to deal with, and I know how bad and how fucked up people are, and where I come from, and how what I've seen and what it's turned into, and I've seen a lot of how bad it's gotten, and you just would never believe it would have gotten just how bad a lot of people turned into. Just people that I know what's happened to them, how bad they've fallen off, and like I said, it's become an epidemic, and it's not like I said, it's not talked about enough. This is going under the radar, and it's got to be brought to light. It's got to be brought to people's attention, and people are going to have to do something about it sooner rather than later because we're falling off a cliff.
Yeah, no parachute either. Well, I guess the one saving grace might be, just somehow finding a way to pull yourself together, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of resources or help. That's, I mean, there's resources in the way that, if you're on the street or if you're doing drugs, they can get you more drugs, but those drugs were always a placebo. They're a quick fix for a chronic issue, and only cause more issues. So I did have a somewhat answer to your question, and this is the quick overview. Uh, and it says approximately half of all children in the United States. Now it says approximately, but when you go into the study that it's basing this on, it's higher than 50%. So it says approximately, but it's actually higher. Where was it? Where was? Yeah, here we go. It goes by state, and these are different years, but a lot of them average around 2020. So you can imagine that those you just think that those would be higher, but um, so there's some lower under 50%, but most of them are at 50% or higher. And then you look at Wisconsin. Oh, wait. I went too far. There we go. Look at Wisconsin, around 55%, Wyoming 55%. And this was like amount of people that prevalence of adverse childhood ACE among U.S. adults. So people that had said they experienced, they list the things right here: abuse, emotional, physical, or sexual; neglect, physical or emotional; household dysfunction, substance abuse, domestic violence, mental illness, or parental separation or divorce; and or other; witnessing violence, experiencing natural disasters, or being involved in accidents. Now that's a pretty broad scope of things to track, but it'd be hard to paint any one of those things with the same brush. These things need to be handled differently. Every single one of those things on there is handled differently. You don't solve the issues of the kid who was in a tornado with the same way you solve the issues of the kid that got sexually abused. So in a way, this is kind of, like I said, this is a broad study, but it nonetheless, it kind of points to exactly what you're talking about. And moreover, not just how prevalent it is, but how like wide the spectrum is on different issues. Because you'll not only have the same, so it's like the same issues that affect the same exact kid, not the same exact kid, but a kid in one state, in this particular, because states, you go far enough, you go a couple states over and it's another country. The culture is wide ranging in America. And the way a kid's raised on the East Coast is much different than the West Coast and the middle states and things of that nature. So there's all sorts of facets to think about when you're talking about trauma for these kids. But kind of piggybacking off of what I ended with is the true cost will only be felt when these kids become of age. These things do not just go away. Now I personally have I guess a moral belief that we're all dealt a hand. And I'm trying to be nuanced about this because I understand, and I'll go into it as well, just so just so I'm not just some silver spoon kid talking here. But I think we're all dealt a hand, and that there's a lot of individual decisions on top of that trauma. And there's success stories, and then there's obviously a lot more failures, because failure is just inherently easier than success. Failure shows itself in different ways, and I'm not saying that person is a failure, but failure to bloom into the person that I'm sure they would prefer to be, because they can't get over certain obstacles that were either placed in front of them, or that were placed in front of them, and they haven't been able to jump those hurdles in their adult life. But like I was saying, I think that there's a lot of individual choice in the matter when it comes to the adults that go on to act on their childhood trauma. And there's all different, like I said, like that's why I was prefacing this, is there's all different types of childhood traumas, and obviously some are worse than others and things of that nature. But I do think at the end of the day, the onus is on the individual to overcome, because like we've talked about before, we're not just like, in my opinion, we're not just pieces of meat walking around bumping into walls. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is not to repeat the terror that was put on us. Our purpose is not to, delve into the pain. It is to rise above it in all forms. With that being said, I had a pretty, what you could call a traumatic issue. And in saying that, I've done well to overcome it. I certainly, there was no ill effects when it comes to those aspects of my life, the sexual aspects of my life in my later years. But I went with I think my aunt. They invited us to their church, and the kids were taken to Sunday school. And funnily enough, I ended up living right across the street from the church later in my life. Anyway, but one of the whatever, like, what are they called? What are those, like, counselors that like it's a teenage counselor that helps with the church. This kid had a bright idea to be taking kids would have to go to the bathroom, and he was given given the task to take the kids to the bathroom and bring them back. Well, in my experience, and what ended up coming out was that he did this a lot more times with more success, was that he would go in there and then offer the kids some sort of goodie and like put it in his pants and tell him to grab it. Basically, that's what he did to me. I didn't do it, and it is what it is. But you could, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh my God, and that's the worst. It's just like, at this point, you're not going to convince me that that's like the worst, because I found out later that it worked on kids, and there were kids that were being, used as puppets in this way, and terrible stuff. But one thing that, what I want to say about this though, is that I didn't go and tell my mom. He told me not to tell anybody, and I didn't rat on him right away. So this is what I want to talk about when it comes to repression. And that's like one of the biggest, I think, hurdles you have to overcome when it comes to trauma. Is, I'm not saying to go get a therapist. There's a lot of things I have problems with when it comes to therapy. I think therapy is a noun. It is or a verb, whatever. It's something that can be achieved without sitting in a couch talking to somebody for $50 an hour or $50 a minute. Therapy is something that I think is very different. I think that there's different approaches that are holistic that can bring you just as good of benefits or better when you realize that you're the one pulling yourself out of that hole and not relying on somebody else to do it. I think there's a power in that. But by saying that, I actually confessed what happened, because things started coming out. Like, I don't know how much longer things started coming out about this kid, but the timeline matched up with my mom. And because I was acting really weird. And so she asked me later on, and I, told her nothing happened, but she had a little puppet, a sock puppet that she made when I was really young. And she brought that out, and I confessed what happened to it. So I remember her calling my aunt really pissed off. But as far as I know, from what I remember, like, nothing even ended up happening to that kid. But anyway, that's the church for you. But
Yeah.
to my point about that is, you could, in my opinion, that it is, I'm not sitting here trying to say that it's definitely not okay. And somebody's losing a limb if I find out that ever happens to my kids. That's just sorry, guys. That's how it's got to be in this world. The fact that it's not that way in this world is why it keeps happening. We got to get over our little safety. It's like that. That's why maps are on flags now. And that's why pedophiles are being pedestalized. Come on, we gotta chill. We gotta fucking chill. This is why kids can go missing at amusement parks, and then you talk about other cultures where kids die straight in the street, and it's just a part, it's just part and parcel to almost becoming a man. This culture of not appreciating what childhood is really has to, something's got to change. And I want to say that it has to start, like, obviously in the household, and that's kind of where I'll attack this at, because I already prefaced, at the beginning, that there are kids that they're it's out of their control. There's no household. Their trauma is not from their household. It's from, the fact that they haven't had a chance from the beginning. But then there's all, that's a problem that's going to take a lot of solving, but it's not going to get solved by a bunch of traumatized kids today. The traumatized kids today in our world aren't going to have the gumption to help the ones that really need our help when they're adults. So it's like this cycle has got to break. And I alluded to it at the beginning when I, first talked about us taking on this topic, that, I parent with an idea that, regret is crazy. When you're a parent, you'll build a portfolio of regret. That's just how, I think that's just natural. I think people do that anyway, but as a parent, especially, that, is working towards your child being a successful human, you see things through a certain lens that enough about the world, especially, it's like, I'm not that old, but I have acquired what I would assume is, unaverage amounts of knowledge or knowing about the way of the world. And with that, I can't not impart that down to my son or my daughter. Like, I have to get that across to them. That is my job right now, is to get that across to them so that they can have that weight. They need to know the weight of it, so that when they go to lift it without me helping them, they can lift it. That's the kind of way, it's like, eventually I'm not going to be spotting them anymore, and they're just going to have to be able to lift it all by themselves. And there's not enough of that in parenting nowadays. And not to mention, that trauma generality was, it put sexual abuse in the same category as witnessing an argument, basically. So it's like, okay, like, no telling really off that what the levels of, deeper psychological trauma those kids went through, or how many of them went through that, first phase of, the more common, if you will, not to say it's good, but the, the split up homes and things of that nature. And I can attest to that because, for my son, that is with my former girlfriend. So it's, our family's been split up in that way, and there's been all sorts of turmoil because of it, and none of that is his fault, and he's had to take on a lot of that. And with that, I do my best to explain to him what he needs to do to acknowledge it. And so once he can acknowledge it, he can see it and he can take it on. I'm not just, I can't jump in his body and make him feel good about it. And that's, not probably not going to happen, but I can do my best to make him understand how to acknowledge it and find a way to maneuver it without, growing resentment or guilt or things of that nature, and putting it on himself when he needs to be focusing on the stuff that is outside of the in the house stuff. Because the more, when I think about childhood trauma, I think of it as a mechanism that has been taught to us. We were all kids once. These things were taught to us so that we perform them on the kids of the next generation, and the cycle repeats. And we all know that. I think we all know that. I think we can all agree that. And you have it now, you have phrases for it. So everybody, every other word when they're on podcasts will be generational trauma, generational the generational curses. You hear about these things. That's kind of what we're talking about. But more than just talking about it, we need to be able to show the kids how to confront them. And as adults, we need to be able to confront them so that we are an example to the kids that you can confront them, and that the sooner you deal with them, the better. And maybe these things will never go away, but it's your life that's at risk, not theirs, not the perpetrator, not, that's the sucky part of it, but it's also kind of the beautiful part of it, that it's fairness isn't inherent. Nobody inherits fairness. That's the thing. You cannot force fairness on yourself. You can try. Good luck. And sometimes you find the people. A lot of times you'll find the people that are put in charge of fairness are the most unfair. So I think when you realize that you're the biggest advocate of you, that's when you can overcome the things that can bog you down, or are bogging you down, or threaten your future. But you have to have an appreciation for what and who you are, and in the first place. And a lot of these kids, that's what breaks down first, and that's the purpose of it. Is it breaks down that appreciation of who and what they are, so that when they grow up, you have suicides rampant, you have self-harm rampant. Self-harm is included with drugs. Now, you mentioned marijuana. That's one thing, and that's obviously been destigmatized enough. But there's also overuse of everything. There's overstimulation with electronics. There's overstimulation with food. There's overstimulation with all sorts of things. And these are all, I think, byproducts of certain traumas that haven't been met head on by the individual. And we now live in a better help society, where we think going to a weekly Skype call with somebody is fixing a situation that takes your brain to do it, not somebody telling you what your brain's supposed to do. You have to have that realization. You have to have that understanding of yourself in order to move past a lot of these things, in my experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing about it too is, especially from my perspective, is the trauma and for most people, like kind of like what I went through. I mean, I was around, and this is a huge problem today, is, like I said, narcissism, because if you're around that, it's going to destroy you as a person if you don't get away from it and get away from those people. And if you're, and that's the thing. I mean, I spent a lot of my life around awful people, horrible people, narcissists, in an awful environment. And for a lot of years, I mean, it did destroy me. It destroyed me mentally, emotionally, physically. And I had to, and I've still, I mean, years later, I'm way behind in life, but I'm trying to claw and build and repair and do better. And I mean, it puts you behind the eight ball in a huge way. And like I said, a lot of people that go through that kind of stuff, they do end up committing suicide. They do end up going to prison, because it's too much, and they don't overcome it. The more severe cases, a lot of people, they end up killing someone else, or snapping, or I know a lot of people always said it to me, like a lot of people always like, well, who hurt you? Who did this to you? Who fucked you up? And then people will be like, oh, one day you're gonna snap, Austin. You're gonna snap. You're gonna kill someone. You're gonna hurt someone. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. And I've heard it all, and I've seen it all in my life. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, with when you're around, constant trauma and narcissist and narcissism. I mean, the only way is to get away, and you have to do that before it consumes you. And I've had it with a lot of different people. I mean, my parents, my family, just other people in general I was around. And it's something where it all comes back to one. I mean, it all goes into one. I mean, all these things, and it 100%. Like, the thing is, a lot of people are always like, well, whose kid are you? Because you're not your parents. You're nothing like them. But the thing was, I never wanted to be anything like my parents. I didn't want to be like them because I didn't want to. I'm like, what? Why would I want to, like, do that to somebody? You know what? And that's the thing. I mean, when you don't have um anyone there to like I said, I mean, I really wasn't raised or anything. I mean, I was always alone by myself. Um, like I said, I have a lot of other issues that I work on. I've had to work on and stuff too. And even in preschool, when I was 4 years old, like I would just sit by myself. I wouldn't be around anybody. I'd be like in the corner by myself, and everyone's like, "Well, what's wrong with your kid? Why doesn't he want to play with others? Why doesn't he want to be around others?" Like, well, what's wrong with them? Why is he like that? And um, that's just the thing. I mean, it starts at a very young age, uh, and if you don't get out of there in time, I mean, I spent way too long, way too many years in a bad spot, and it's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you real bad if you don't get out in time. And I'm still getting over it to this day, but it is. It's very hard. I mean, when you and we don't get to choose our parents and where we're born and the way our life's going to go and all that stuff. I mean, you have such little control over things, and it takes a long time to get money up and move away and try and do things. And especially nowadays, and having to do it in the times of COVID and inflation and all this other bullshit they put us through in the last 5 years or so as well. It's crippled a lot of other people, and it's it's just the thing. I mean, there's too many um parents that shouldn't be parents. There's too many shitty parents. There's too many just narcissistic people, and then you throw kids into the mix of it. I mean, and it's already bad enough because I didn't have a father figure at all growing up. I mean, I didn't have anyone that was gonna teach me or show me how to do anything. I mean, nothing at all. I mean, I didn't even learn the first time I even shot a gun. I didn't even shoot till I was like 15. I shot a little bit. I was like 15, 16, 17. But um, to be honest with you, I learned how to shoot guns from like porn stars, prostitutes, strippers, like, because my parents weren't gonna teach me and show me that shit. Like, they weren't gonna help me out. They weren't gonna teach me nothing. So I learned from like strippers, prostitutes, porn stars, those kind of people. And that's how I fucking those are the kind of people I had around me to teach me shit. I was always around just that those types or other types of people that if those people weren't around, I mean, nothing was going to happen, because people just they didn't give a fuck about me. I mean, they didn't care. They weren't going to take the time. And even my neighbors, I remember, like, I was like 17 in like 2012, and I was shooting my neighbors like 22 rifle, and they're like, they couldn't believe it. They're like, your parents, your dad ain't gonna, you're not over there shooting, or you're not gonna shoot the guns, or not, they're not gonna take you out, you're not gonna do anything with you. I'm like, fuck no, why would they do that? And if you ask them or try and set something up with them, they weren't gonna fucking do nothing. So it's like, um, yeah, I had such few opportunities to do things in life, to um have opportunities to just do basic things. And that's the problem with so many people today. That's why so many people are so far behind, because they don't have anyone there to teach them how to ride a bike. I mean, throw a ball. I mean, if I wanted to play sports, no one was going to take you to the game. No one was going to support you. No one was going to sit there. No one was going to pick you up. I mean, they're going to leave you stranded on the job site. They damn sure ain't going to fucking be there for you. I mean, I mean, I didn't even get, when I was a kid, I didn't even get fed a lot of times. I mean, I'd go starving because your parents are out fucking drinking at the bar and getting fucked up. And it's like, yeah, they'll tell you they're going to bring a burger home from the bar at like midnight, and then midnight turns into like 2 in the morning, it turns into 4 in the morning, and then they'll come home and they didn't give you any food, so you just end up going starving. Or you're lucky if they give you anything, and then they're drunk and they blame you for shit and blame you for wrecking their lives and whatever. So it's like, that's the kind of shit I had to go through with it constantly. I mean, and like I said, I mean, when you're in a situation like that, you have to get out of it. You have to. And I didn't, I mean, I just, I knew my life was fucked up. I knew I was in bad spots around awful people. But for me, it was like, I was just so used to abuse that I didn't know any better. That was just the way I always was. I was so used to being abused and treated like shit that's what you're just, it puts you in a false state of reality in your mind that you just think that that's just how you deserve to be treated. You just deserve to be treated like shit. You don't deserve to live a good quality life. You deserve to be garbage because that's all you know. And if that's all you know, then that's pretty much how you're going to turn out. And um, it's it's awful. I mean, and then you see these kids now. I mean, like I said, I mean the neglect. I mean, there's kids now that, um, I mean, in the time I grew up, I mean, there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't all the stuff in the school with the gay and the transgender, that type of stuff. I mean, I've had everything about the sexual abuse, the mental, emotional, the physical, the neglect, violence, near death, just so many other things that I've had to overcome. And it makes it, like I said, it just puts you behind the eight ball. And then when you spend so much time in that, and then you deal with their bullshit, I mean, they're going to take their bullshit and they're going to throw it on you wherever you go. I mean, wherever you go, you're going to be wrapped up in it. You're going to have to deal with it. You got to deal with the war going on in your family between people, and then you're going to be blamed for it. And then you got to deal with, the fighting with them or fighting with the police or fighting with whoever's involved. And it turns into a massive shit show, and it'll wreck your life. And it damn near did to me. I mean, on a lot of occasions. And yeah, it's really heartbreaking that this is the reality for a lot of people today, that they have to go through this kind of stuff and they don't get to even live their life because there's just so much working against them. And when you have to, like I said, there's things where, like where I'm from, I mean, there's nothing but bars and alcoholics and drunks. That's all there is bars. Everyone I know did, either they smoked weed, pot, cocaine. I was around all of it. So, I mean, I was always, that's just all I know is that kind of life. But I know there's other places where, like you said, there's different states, different areas where certain things aren't, that kind of way. And, you don't have to really deal with that kind of stuff. And then there's other places where it's, that's all it is. So it's like everyone, where you're born and the way the culture is, um, the way things are set up. I mean, it puts you, depending on where you are, it's a disadvantage. It's like, what was my choice to run away? I mean, run away in the brutal Wisconsin cold when I'm small and skinny. Like, how far are you going to get? What are you going to do? You're fucked. It's like, and it just makes you feel trapped. And it's like, um, I mean, even like I said, when I was you living in Wyoming, I mean, Wyoming has got like the highest suicide rate in the country, and there's reasons for this stuff. I mean, there's reasons why people in like Wisconsin, Wyoming, Montana, there's high suicide rates. There's people killing themselves a lot. There's reasons why certain places are like that. These colder, darker places, and the way it affects people's moods and stuff. And um, whether, like I said, mental illness runs in families, then it's passed down through kids, and then their kids get it, and then they treat their kids like shit, and it goes to their kids, and it just, like you said, the generational curse. And yeah, I mean, that's something where that can be a very difficult thing to overcome for some people. And some people, like I said, they never make it out because they were just entrenched in it, and they become too used to it. It becomes who they are, and they don't know any better. I mean, that's where I was in life. I mean, when you're treated worse than an animal, I mean, that's what you're gonna have. That's gonna be your you're going to have an awful self-esteem. You're going to have awful confidence. You're just going to be an awful person until you realize that you're better than that. You deserve better than that. There is better out there. That's not all there is. But when you're living in it and you're stuck in it, and that's all you know, that is going to be, for the most part, who you are until you find a way out. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to be, you don't want to go through that. You don't want to be in it. And if you are in it, the only way is to get away, to get out, and Yeah, it's real tough. I mean, and then to see people go through it today, and just the suicide rate, people killing themselves, ending their lives. I mean, it's just, and I know a lot of people are going through it. They feel stuck, like there's nothing they can do, and there's no way out, and it's never going to get better. And that's why you do see so many people killing themselves. And it is the very sad situation we find ourselves in, this epidemic.
Well, I will say that from what I know of you, you've found a way to become pretty well adjusted, and for all those naysayers in your life that was saying, you're gonna snap one day, I'll counter that and say, you know, one day, all these things will just be a blip in the in your history and your story. And don't worry, dude, you'll just continue to shine a light for more people, and that's what you're here to do, and that's what you're gonna do. So for those people that said you're gonna snap, it's like maybe you'll snap, maybe in a good way, whatever that means. But uh yeah, I don't see the same things they see. So they can kick a can down the road for all I care if that's what they think, and that's just more, sounds like you had a narcissist uh kind of a group around you, and I have that pulled up on the screen for the whole time you were talking, just so people have like an idea of what it means, because that's another word that's being dumbed down in the media nowadays. Everybody's a narcissist. Everybody's this. These buzzwords. So it's. I think it's important to understand what narcissism really truly encompasses, and how it. And I appreciate you giving that testimony, because it also explains, the mind of a child being subject to a narcissistic parent, or whoever's raising them, or their surroundings. You mentioned school. That's another big one. I
Oh
remember early on, uh, my initial schooling was honestly pretty good. I was home to say my first teachers were narcissistic. I was homeschooled, but so but when I first started going to school, I was in third grade, and third through um, sixth grade was honestly really really cool. I met I had best friends, and I had a really cool friend group, and can't really complain with my first schooling. But to kind of point to another time in my life where I struggled with, kind of self defeating thoughts, and or self defeatist thoughts, and depression, clear depression, uh, from my surroundings, and it's nothing that I put a finger on when I was a kid. Like when I was going through it, I didn't say, "Oh, this is because of this," or think anything that was happening was because of anything. Um, I didn't really attribute it to anything. But after my mom and stepdad divorced, and and from that divorce, I lost my stepbrother and stepsister, and which also made us move, which took me out of the area from those kids that I grew up with, from third grade up. Um, all had become like my best friends. I was set to go to middle school with them, and eventually high school. And what ended up happening was I really never saw them again for the most part. Um, but on top of that, we moved to a place in Northeast Portland that was predominantly black, and that wasn't in and of itself an issue. But I did get to see firsthand how poorly managed these, like, I won't say inner city, because like Portland really doesn't have that so much as like large urban districts do, like in major cities. So it's not like Chicago or anything like that, where it's, or like Brooklyn, like New York and stuff like that. But it was an example of it. This school I went to was called Whitaker Lakeside, and it was called Whitaker Lakeside because it was at one point Whitaker is the main school, but they were shut down because of uh, asbestos, and that was in like a more affluent part of Northeast Portland. But Whitaker Lakeside is in like the ghetto part of Northeast Portland. So all of the kids in the ghetto areas of Northeast Portland all have to congregate in this one school. And what it was it's like a science research center. Just kind of goes to show you where their priorities were back in the day for schooling, that they had secondary schools for middle schoolers to go learn science. It's like, Jesus Christ, they barely taught me science in high school at all, but definitely not real science. Maybe how to ask for a, I guess transgenderism stuff wasn't in my itinerary when I was in school, but it was still like the gay stuff was creeping in. Anyway, and the over sexualization and teaching kids things that don't, aren't appropriate to be learning from not a loved, trusted person in your life. Anyway, so I ended up going to this really ghetto school, and that's not to say that I couldn't handle it. I grew up in North Portland, and it was very, I my I did attend middle school for partial of a year, so part of sixth grade before we ended up moving, and that Portsmouth Middle School, right behind their baseball field, is a housing center called the Ghetto. Like, it has a sign and everything. And man, if ghetto was just like, if a picture was a word like that, it was not just called the Ghetto. It was literally a ghetto in every sense of the word. I could try to describe it, but I'll skip that anyway. So it's not like I wasn't around. I had lots of black friends at my original school and everything like that. It's not like I had any issues with black people or anything like that. It's just when I was basically one of the only white people at this school, that shit was a bit wild. And I'll speak on it from and I'm smiling because and kind of laughing about it, even though I preface this with depression and like a really down time in my life. I'll get to that. But there is a silver lining to it in that I did defeat a lot of those issues I had eventually. But being one of the only white kids going to that school, a lot of the tricks that I had just straight up didn't work. It was like speaking another language almost. And so it's like you're thrown into like a whole nother, I guess, culture. I mean, that's just is what it is. It's on the nose about what it is. I was like thrown into another culture. And at the time, my mom was really busy just going to work. And I mean, to the point where I barely went to this school. I skipped so much school because I had to walk down the street to catch the bus. And she wasn't the kind of person that was going to make sure I went and caught the bus. So I would just walk to the bus stop, go walk down a different street, and wait till I see her car pull out and just go back home. I would leave a window cracked, so she would lock the door, and I would just leave a window cracked so I could sneak back in. But at that time, I had a problem stealing. I got into stealing a lot. Used to steal a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards because that was my shtick back in the day, was Yu-Gi-Oh. And I used to like pig out. My mom had bad food. My mom does not have good food taste. Like, I could go into it about that, but anyway, I would end up just like eating frosting out of the like cans of frosting and stuff. It was, looking back on it, I've been able to kind of diagnose it later in life. But yeah, I ballooned. I was always a fit kid, super good at basketball, and but I ballooned. I became this like chunky monkey over like just a year period, and that was a real trauma on me because that propelled me into freshman year of high school where I was still a little fatty, and that's a different experience than, I will say it, a normal sized kid. Luckily, I did overcome that during high school. You can blame you know, different aspects, but you can be a fat kid all through high school. That, it's prevalent. So it's not just, you're growing up and you're getting older that you lose the weight. It was a motivation I had to have in order to do so. But what I will say about that schooling experience, and this, why I'm basing this off of what you're talking about with trauma, is because it was very similar for me. My mom worked uh, at a mall down the road, or not down the road, but pretty far away. And, it was rare that, the experiences with my mom were few and far between. She didn't know what I was doing at any time of day. I was out stealing. I was out, uh, you know, going around the neighborhood. Getting into trouble. I had to go to a truancy home. And because I refused to go to school at a certain point, and then, things got bad, and my mom was like, called the cops on me, and they took me to a truancy home, and that shit was crazy. But anyway, all that to say, before it all, we ended up moving again, and I didn't go to that school anymore before high school. Um, I did kind of overcome a lot of those flaws. I remember one time at that school, because I have very few memories, honestly, that were good, at least. Um, but for being a little chunky kid too, I did have a couple girls that had crushes on me too. So that I still had that. I had something going for me. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't looks, but anyway. But I remember one time at the cafeteria, uh, I had like crowds of people around me because I was just like making jokes with like the cafeteria food. I don't remember the exacts of what I was doing. I just remember having like crowds of people around me just cracking up. So I don't remember the exact things I was doing, but that'll always stick with me because it was like, I don't know, it's almost like a made for TV movie. The way it felt, it was like it was like acceptance a bit. Um, but yeah, you know, the neglect the neglect, and I wouldn't say my mom's like narcissistic, because one of the things that I've come to realize in my life and in my adult life is, once I became an adult, well, a little bit after I became an adult, especially after I became a father, I found out real pretty quick that life happens to everybody, and that I'm not some special version, and my mom wasn't some special version. She had things happening to her. She had a life that she had to go home to. She had a life that she had to live with. She had stuff she had to contend with herself. And the times I failed in life, I failed because I allowed myself to fail the same way she allowed herself to fail. And so, not that many years ago, honestly, it was only like, I think it was like 3 years ago, that I went to my mom and I told her something similar to that. I forgave her for, and she didn't take it perfectly very well. She didn't she felt very like reactionary, like, what are you forgiving me for? I did my best. I always did my best. I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that sentiment by a parent that potentially didn't do their best. But and I could almost see myself feeling that way. But what comes with breaking those generational curses is seeing that, yes, mom, you think you did your best, but if you could admit that you didn't do your best, that'd be so much better. You would be so much further ahead than being stuck in the "I did my best." You good luck clawing out of that. You don't feel like you need to claw out. You're in a comfy bed of "I did my best." You don't need to get out of that bed. It's comfy. But to confront the fact that you did make those mistakes, you did have those shortcomings. I'm not asking for reparations here. I'm not asking for you to do anything or even apologize. I want her to confront them so that she can understand what I had to confront, and then realize that I am going to convey those things to my kids so that hopefully they can recognize the things sooner than I was able to recognize them. because that's kind of what I was getting onto about, like, I would skip school and go home and sit on my Game Boy Advance and gorge myself, and because you really do got to eat a lot as a kid to get fat. That's the really sad thing about these homes that have two loving parents in them, that love is really translates into spoiling, and it's not true love of their body and their soul and their mind. It's love of make them smile and happy and content. And it's really sad, and I feel like we were a little too late to get into that aspect of things, but that's definitely worth talking about maybe next week. But because that's a form of narcissism in my opinion too. It's self-deprecating. It's actually the op you'll have some people that work their kids into oblivion because they want them to be like them in a good way, and then you'll have other people that want to drag their kids down to be like them in a bad way. So either way is harmful. And but yeah, I was definitely depressed and low on life, and like I said, I wasn't self-diagnosing back then. I was still a kid, but being able to go back and look at it, when I lost the weight, it was because I had a sense of urgency within myself to fix certain things, not for approval, but for my own approval. For not, for my own, I wanted to be comfortable in my own skin. Like, for example, I don't remember what I look like. I took showers and all that stuff. I could not tell you. If you were to ask me if I thought I was fat when I was fat, I didn't know. That's how fucked up it was. That's how repressed it was. I was repressing it actively. I can't remember. Like, I have a almost photographic memory, and I don't remember what I looked like as a fat kid. Like my body, I don't remember it. I blocked it out. So it's crazy, the mind. And when you have an appreciation for the mind, and like I said, really, this is a more long-winded rants by Logan to get to a solid point that, once again, it's just there's certain things that deserve to be passed on to your kids so that they understand what they need to do in their own lives when they confront the hardship that will find them. You can try to shield everybody from everything. It's impossible. You can't shield yourself from half the things you want to shield the people you love. So it's a uphill battle, but it's a battle worth fighting. And especially when it comes to the kids, because like I said before, these kids are going to be the arbiters of the world. And we all say that, and we say that with like a good thought in mind. But let's be realistic. What are the kids of narcissists? What do they come up as? Worse narcissists.
Yep.
So I'll end it on that and let you have the floor to close us out here, because I really want to get your what I really hope to get out of the end of this episode. I think would be cool is to give a silver lining and then pick it up next week. I hope I gave somewhat of a silver lining to my story, because I truly do feel that I did overcome it. A lot of the issues that I have that I could have rested on my laurels on, I think I really did overcome them, and it is possible. What would you say to that? Because in my opinion, you're a very well-adjusted person that has a lot of light to shine on the world, and that's all I've seen of you. So it's revealing to get to know you, because that's what we're doing right now. I'm getting to know my homie too right now, and I hope he's getting to know me a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. And that was kind of the exact point of doing this too, was to open up a lot more about myself and yourself, and because we have a little bit on this channel. I've said some other things on the channel too, but I've also said that it's something I don't really talk about a lot, because it is hard to talk about this stuff. But it is. I've also said that this is basically our therapy and our that's how I just kind of look at it. I look at the channel as more of just like a therapy type thing, and for the people that watch, and for each other and stuff. And yeah, and I think it's interesting, like comparing your situation to my situation, and the differences, and Yeah, I think you did have a silver lining. I think you did a great job overcoming that. And um, I mean, I was in situations like that too, where I was in. I mean, I was never um, like fat or out of shape, but I did have those. Like I said, I've talked about like those setbacks I've had when I had like that like Oshkosh like incident with my knees, and I had like those tumors come out of my knees for years. I had to deal with that. Then I had like my heel problem. My heel was hurting for like a couple years, and I couldn't really like could barely walk or run or anything. And then my knee thing for a lot of years, and then that kind of went away. And there was like probably like 5, 6, 7 years in total where I was just kind of I couldn't really do much, and it was a big setback in my life, and I became really depressed in that time. And I had that was a dark time for me too, because I had really bad like acne and everything too. I was just a total like pizza face. I was ugly. I had short hair. It was those were some dark days, dark times. And yeah, I think yeah, this is definitely an exciting topic to continue for the rest of. I'd love to do this all August. Just kind of keep sharing more about myself bit by bit and unraveling and showing people who I am, because I think when people hear your story or my story or whatever, it's this is the kind of thing people need to hear, because I mean, especially like what my life, because my life was just, I mean, it was just so just bizarre and fucked up, all the shit that um I was around and all the stuff that's happened. But then like you look at it and you watch it play out, and like you said, you see yourself and you see the silver lining and who you can become and the things you can do, and as far as you can make it in life, and having to be an inspiration for others, because uh, that's really what it comes down to. And this is something where um, I would love to be more like inspirational and help others and work with others that have gone through the same thing, because that's really what I look at it too. Like I look at it like, well, what if everyone had to go through what I had to go through? I mean, there wouldn't be anyone around. I mean, there'd be so few people around, because everyone would be either dead or have killed people, or they'd be in prison, or they would have snapped. They just like the shit I was saying. Like people always ask me, who hurt you? What happened to you? Or one day you're gonna snap. It's like, well, here I am. I mean, I'm 30 and I'm made it this far. So it's like, I honestly, years ago, I didn't think I was gonna make it this far. A lot of times there was a lot of moments where I thought I should have died, or I thought I was gonna die. I mean, I know a time or two where I even ran from the cops. I had to escape through like farm fields and run away and get in my car and drive away and stuff, or I could have went to jail or prison. So I mean, there was running from the cops, running from the law, running from this, just just so much of that. And um yeah, I think that when you have like a situation like mine, I think because a lot of people, they might look at me, they maybe they have an idea or maybe they don't, and then you start talking all this stuff and you start telling them all this stuff, and then things start making sense, or maybe they didn't even expect that you went through all that, or if you did go through all that, this is why you have these problems, this is why you are the way you are. Because some people, they'll just judge, because I mean, sometimes you can tell like I'm maybe not there, because maybe I've had like maybe insomnia, or just my mind's just slipping, or I'm just kind of bouncing around, or I forget things, or I'm like, oh, how did I do that, or where did that go, or something. And it's almost like it's like I have like a traumatic brain injury or something, like I have a concussion or something, like I'm just not with the program or something. But um there are still days and times I struggle with stuff, but I think that the silver lining aspect is really just I think my life, I was always forced to be. I was always in like a kind of like I said, a dark, cold, depressing environment. I've lived in Washington, Wisconsin, Wyoming. Those are all tough lives. I mean, Wisconsin's a very tough life. Wyoming's a very tough life. And I think that when you have those environments and you're around those kind of people and stuff, if you can manage to get away and escape, you have a chance in life. I mean, not saying you're going to win and you're going to be successful. I mean, not everyone's going to be successful, and there's a high probability that I never will be. But the fact that I still am trying, and the fact that you're still able to do things, and you can have that, you can take that charisma, that toughness, you can um, apply that to other things, and you can take what you were given, and if you have something to offer, it's like I said, I didn't have parents that were gonna help me with playing. No one was gonna throw the ball to me, anything like that. I had to learn things on my own. I had everything I had to do, I had to learn it on my own, or I never learned it, or I was just behind, or some other person or entity came around to help. Like I never went fishing. I didn't have anyone that was going to take me fishing. So, I mean, I didn't even do that till I was, I mean, I don't even know how old, and then stuff like that. I mean, um, so I think it's just, I think people just need to know that there's others out there that are struggling, that have gone through that kind of stuff. And when other people know that, you know, I think there's just too many people out there that just feel alone, and then somebody shares their story, like I share my story. But I think the biggest thing when I speak and I share my experiences, I think it should motivate and inspire people and other people that have gone through stuff like that or similar or whatever, that it can help them, because then they don't feel as alone. They have um someone that understands where they're coming from. So it's not like, oh, why are you so fucked up? Why don't you know how to do anything? Why are you struggling in life? Why are you so far behind? Then it's like, and then you see like what that person had to go through, and it's like, oh wow, I mean, I'm surprised that you're even alive and not in prison or dead. It's like, and it's like, yeah, and then it's like you didn't even know. And then that's the thing. I mean, and for people that judge other people, that's why I don't judge other people. I don't know other people. I don't know what you've been through, where you were, what that's the thing. I mean, and um I think that this topic, for in episodes to come, it's going to help people be, it can open people's minds, it can open people's hearts up a bit, because it's, in this world you have to be a deep thinker, but you also have to be a deep feeler. I mean, you can't have just uh mental illness and then just bad people running around everywhere, because you're just going to have bad results. And um, when you realize that things are bad and you don't want to be like that, you don't want to do that, that's the first step. I mean, that's the way I always was. Like, I see that I don't like the people around me. I don't want to be like that. Like I said, the two things with me is I always wanted to move away and travel. I always wanted to move away and travel, and I had to work and save up money and do it in difficult environments and difficult times. And once I got the opportunity to leave, I was going to get out, and I had to travel and explore and learn things, and what the country looked like and where I was going. Um and I think that if there's people out there that are younger that are going through this type of thing, a lot of people, they might be scared to travel or scared to get away or something. But I'm here to tell you that that's exactly what you got to do. You just I knew I just had to do it, and that's what I did. And that's what a lot of people need to do. They have to just take that step. They got to get away. They got to open the door, and they got to escape. And once you get out, I mean, you at least have a chance. I mean, you're not saying you're going to win in life, you're going to be successful, that you're even going to make it, because it's extremely difficult today to do that, especially in certain uh, environments. And what you've been through, it makes it even harder. But at least you put yourself in position. At least you have a chance to possibly make something of yourself. You possibly could have a decent life. You're at least giving a chance for something. And I think as long as you do that, and as long as you keep yourself around and relevant enough to have opportunities in life to live, experience, try to at least form relationships to the best of your ability and build things to the best of your ability. I mean, as long as you're trying to do that, I think that's what really matters. And like I said, I mean, if people, I think people in my position and people that have gone through similar stuff, they need a voice. They need people that have gone through it to come out, to speak out, to open up. And then when they hear it, they'll be like, then they have someone, then they don't feel alone. Then they have someone to relate to, and then they got someone to be inspired by, motivated by, and that can help themselves, perhaps pull themselves out of the situation they're in. And that's just, it's like building a brotherhood. It's like building a community of just people that maybe weren't that fortunate. They were dealt a bad hand, but maybe they're able to make something of it. You know, you got to make something out of nothing, and that's you got to be this, like the magic man, just turn nothing into something if you can, or at least have an opportunity to do that.
Very well put, and I don't argue with that at all. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I do believe that the onus is on the individual, and you could either be the next generation of narcissist, or person putting that curse on the next generation, or you could be the generation that breaks it. You have two different options, and obviously one path is a lot harder than the other, and I think in that journey you find that whatever chance for happiness is only through that harder path. And fairness is not inherent, like I said. So expecting fairness in life is something that nobody can do. Nobody should do. And yeah, what I had a lot of fun. That was pretty riveting conversation, in my opinion. We would love to know your guys' opinion on the topic. Don't feel free to share whatever you guys want to share. If you do, to keep it in a more private level, if you want to talk to us, there's of course the email, but feel free to leave comments. Either relating to what we talked about, or really anything broaching the topic, or whatever else. If maybe there was a decode you want to give us too, it's like, don't feel free to leave it today. This isn't like a one topic. It's you can say whatever you want, but if you guys have stuff that excuse me, is related to the topic, we'd love to have your feedback there. But and yeah, the email is the one scrolling across the screen all the time. I leave it in the description as well, so feel free to hit us up there, especially if you want to join us for a conversation or anything of that effect too. Do that through our email. But yeah, look forward to next week when we see how we attack this this topic in a different way, because I think that was a pretty succinct discussion for going into it, not really knowing where it was going to take us. I felt like we got to somewhere pretty damn good. That's worth listening to and joining in on the conversation. So with that being said, I will leave you guys till next week, where you will hear from us again. Have a good week, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.